Hello and welcome from Shambhala Mountain Center. My name is Travis Newbill. I live and work here at Shambhala Mountain Center, and we're really looking forward to hosting a retreat this coming November called the Posture of Meditation, Breathing Through the Whole Body. And leading that program will be Will Johnson. He's a very experienced practitioner, and who I'm so honored to have on the line today for some discussion. Will was an early student, I guess still is, of Ida Rolf. Has written extensively about the role of the body in spiritual practices. He's the author of The Posture of Meditation, The Spiritual Practices of Rumi, most recently Breathing Through the Whole Body, and many other books and articles. Merging his interests in spiritual practice and Western approaches to the body, in 1995 he founded the Institute for Embodiment Training, a school in British Columbia that views the body as the doorway to spiritual opening rather than the obstacle to it. But Will, thank you so much for joining us today and having some discussion.
Nice to be here.
So I think that maybe a lot of folks are thinking of spirituality and maybe the point of spirituality or how to reach enlightenment, especially if we're thinking about yogic disciplines or Eastern spirituality. I think many people may have some preconception that the body is to be somehow transcended or gets in the way of spiritual realization. And what you seem to teach is maybe completely opposite of that. And I wonder if you may say a little something about that.
Yeah, that's a good place to start, and that's true. What I teach is actually the polar opposite of that. Now, what I'm looking at is a situation where mostly spiritual practices are thought of as somehow transcending the body, somehow getting to a different dimension of experience. And in my experience, what we're doing is exactly quite the opposite of that. The culture we live in, where the consciousness, the quality of consciousness that passes as normal in the world at large, it's a fundamentally disembodied consciousness. We're lost in the body and completely unaware of the feeling presence of the body, or we may be aware of numbness or chronic ache or chronic pain. But what we've managed to do is to neatly separate those, and we go off on these long extended excursions into thought space and literally lose touch with feeling presence, and it's in feeling presence that I believe the Dharma unfolds. My experience, certainly the focus that I bring to the cushion, it's all about, in a sense, rekindling and awakening awareness of body, relaxing that awareness, allowing subtle, constant movement to enliven the body. All of this is natural, and through that, it seems that the veils and the obstructions that keep us, away, to keep us literally out of touch from, what is traditionally called essential nature, that's what starts, dropping away. So yes, the practice, the focus of the practices that I do are very, very body-oriented. Awakening the awareness of sensation, and then just watching what happens to one's experience of both body and mind consciousness, if you will, as that occurs.
And as we're sitting there on the cushion, if the attention is mostly on the body, does that sort of take us out of even having to deal with thoughts?
No, not necessarily. What we're going to start doing, or what I do in my practice, I really look at the relationship between what's happening in the body when we go off and are lost in thought, and how we can, it isn't so much an adjustment of that, it's a letting go and a relaxing of chronic tensions, chronic holding in the body, that they in themselves, what they're going to do is start supporting some of these chronic contractions in what we conventionally call the mind that mostly manifests as going off lost in thought. And we start, paying attention to the interaction of those two. That's when, a lot starts changing. A good place to start is that, mostly what I see when I look out on a hall full of sitting meditators, mostly everybody is sitting extremely still and extremely frozen, so that the body is not moving at all. There's a stillness, almost as though we have this idea that the goal of the practice is to become like a stone garden statue of the Buddha. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the major, focus of the work that I do, or the major object of what we're, trying to get at. In many ways, my view of a lot of contemporary Dharma teachings is that it's painted itself a bit into the corner of a kind of frozen stillness. We have this notion that we're sitting extremely still, not to move even a single muscle fiber. And yet what that frozen stillness does, it numbs out body or creates way too much sensation that those of us who've sat through long retreat very much recognize as, pain. For many people who sat through Vipassana retreats, Zen sessions, Vajrayana, Datuns, that kind of thing, the experience can be a prolonged ordeal of painful endurance, and so much comes from, in a sense, our inability or our overlooking of just establishing this fundamental seat, from which not so much that then we can do the practice just starts doing itself once we pay attention to a couple of very, very simple principles. Now, what's interesting for me about these principles, this is not radical. What I'm doing is going back to some of the most seminal instructions from the Satipatthana Sutta, for example, the Sangha Mahamudra from Tilopa, and picking out instructions that have primarily been overlooked or that they haven't been explored, and putting those together, creating a situation where the body as it sits down becomes naturally a kind of mudra that allows the Dharma to do its thing on us, to work in ways that relieves the tension in the body and the and the contractions in the mind. Very, very simply put, the first thing that I take a look at is the upright alignment, of the body. In truth, Travis, when I look out at people, most people are very, very rigid and often extremely collapsed. The very first instruction of the Buddha in the Satipatthana Sutta, he said, when you go to sit down, you want to make sure that your spine is erect and upright. And there's something about this vertical that allows the whole of the rest of the practice to take place. And this gets very interesting for me. This is from the Satipatthana Sutta. It's the most revered text in Theravada Buddhism. And yet if you go into the countries in Southeast Asia, let's see if this comes through in the, in the video, mostly what I see is people are sitting in a very, very collapsed kind of posture. Okay? Now, what this collapsed posture ends up doing, first of all, it numbs out the feeling awareness of body. It stops breath in its tracks, and it actually then ends up fueling the internal involuntary monologue of the mind. So, what I'll do with people in the retreats that I teach and host, the first thing is to pay attention to this notion of the upright, and you can think of that in a way as, remember when you were a kid and you took a broom and balanced it upside down on your hand, and there's this place where it's just there. And that upright, what that allows us to do is to relax and to let go. And it's the kind of thing, if you're here, you can't relax and let go, because what starts happening, if you were to relax and let go here, you're going to fall over, right? So first of all, there's this notion of just paying attention to the possibility that the upright torso can enter into a condition of very dynamic alignment. I say dynamic because it's not like a fence post. It's more like, we're going to see it's like riding a bicycle. You come to this condition of upright balance, that's the alignment. It allows us to relax. It allows us to let go. And the relaxation is really nothing more or less complicated than willingness and the ability to surrender the weight of the body to the pull of gravity. Again, you can't do that if you don't have, this aligned place. So we're able to relax and let go, and this, of course, is, moving, forward in the history of the Dharma up to the Sangha Mahamudra by the Tibetan teacher Tilopa. What he says, it's very, very clear. He says, do absolutely nothing. Do nothing with the body but relax. And indeed, this is probably a central focus of the teaching that I do. Now, look, having said that, it's one thing to get the upright alignment that allows us to relax. For relaxation to continue over time, this is what we find. We need to start allowing very subtle, constant, spontaneous motion to come through the body in resilient response to every breath we take, so that breath, in a sense, like a string of dominoes, it can cause motion, transmitted motion through every joint in the body. This again, it's it's utterly natural. It's not like something that you do. It's just that you let go. And those motions, very amoeba-like, start happening. If we hold back on those motions, this is when we get into the frozen stillness. It blocks the current of the life force. It blocks, frankly, the progression of the Dharma, and we stay, very, very stuck. So with this aspect of the posture of meditation, we go back to the Satipatthana Sutra. I've been obsessed with this text for many, many decades now, and it's the opening that I'm particularly interested in, where it's a sequence of instructions on breath that the Buddha gives. It starts off by paying attention to the breath at the front of the body. That's what many of us know, focusing, concentrating on the nose, on the nostrils, the front belly wall, but it does not stop there. The Buddha then goes on to suggest that we become much more sophisticated in our awareness of the nuances, the shadings of breath. And then finally, this opening passage culminates in what I've always found an altogether remarkable statement, that as you breathe in through the whole body. It's not just focusing on an isolated part of the body. It's the awareness of breath actually involving breathing through the whole body. Now, to do that, two simple things are necessary. First of all, we have to give ourselves permission to actually feel, to actually awaken the awareness of feeling presence in the body. Now, what am I getting at with this? And everybody can do this who's watching this. Just hold out a hand. I always do this in retreats often. Start here. If you hold out a hand and you just start paying attention to what's going on in the hand, it doesn't take people long. Maybe we start with, oh, I can feel air over it, or it feels heavy. But it doesn't take most people long to start realizing that, whoa, a whole lot is going on in that hand. There are these minute little pinprick blips of constantly changing sensation. And look, I'm very clear, we're not pulling bunnies out of a hat here. It's just, this is the level of bodily awareness that we've gotten literally out of touch with. That when we're lost in thought, we suppress this. So in a sense, the work I'm doing, or what I'm bringing to the cushion, is shifting from that place of being lost in thought to being extremely present in body. So the first thing, we want to awaken the awareness from head to foot of the entire body, feeling it, what it is, shimmering, pulsating. It's all sensation and space. The second part, what we want to do, the Buddha is suggesting that we breathe through the entire body. We have to, as I was just suggesting, when we let go in really deeply relaxed states, breath becomes like a force, like the same kind of force that causes waves to form in the ocean. It's a force that can make its transmitted way through the entire body exactly the way that a wave makes its way through a body of water. So in this way, in this deeply, deeply relaxed condition, we let go of the holding, the frozen stillness, and body stays very amoeba-like, breath to breath to breath. And through this, deep kinds of layers of holding, both at the level of body, physical tensions in the body, and the level of contractions in the mind, come to the surface of awareness, and they just start letting go over a period of time. So what I'm keen on doing is getting people to enter into this practice and then just let go and go for the ride and traverse all the different domains and dimensions of experience that are naturally going to come up as a result of doing that.
Hmm. Yeah, it sounds like a whole path in itself, getting into the body for many of us who maybe just in the habit of, or think that our meditation is about working with the thoughts. That's like a gateway to a whole other level.
Yeah, what I'm interested in is cutting the root. The root of thoughts, if we really pay attention to what's happening when we're lost in thought, and we usually have to do this kind of retroactively, right? Because when we're lost in thought, we're simply not aware. And then we wake up and go, oh, okay, what was I doing? I was bringing tension. I was squeezing in the cranium, in the body. I was holding the body still. I have to do that to allow myself to go off into this condition of being lost in thought. So, what I find, it's very interesting. I will get some people that will do this work with body, first of all, playing with balance, really playing with balance, viewing, the sitting posture as this kind of dynamic mudra that allows the Dharma to work its way through us, working through this very, very physical approach, and then the work of starting to surrender to the breath, actually surrendering to the breath, letting go, relaxing so deeply that, this amoeba-like, natural kind of breath starts functioning. There are people that I've been working with that are taking this on, frankly, as a kind of practice and path in itself. Now look, having said that, what I'm more keen on doing is what I want to see happen. I want to see people go into the Vipassana retreats, go into Zen sessions, go into the Vajrayana, Datuns, and transform that experience from what we were saying before. Because for so many people, this painful ordeal, it's prolonged, painful endurance, just hanging on hour after hour, for a dear life, and kind of transforming that, frankly, into a condition of far greater grace, ease, joy even, and that's where the relief and release starts occurring through. At these deep levels, it's really difficult to say what is exactly body and what is exactly mind. It's just palpable, feeling presence experience, and taking this into long retreat. From my perspective and from my experience anyway, it just changes and alters anything. I interact with and work with many, many people. Done a lot, wonderful, good-hearted people. It's the Dharma. That's who gets attracted to these kinds of practices. I've worked with people who've been sitting for so many years, and they've gotten to a place where, yes, it's wonderful, and it's also kind of a brick wall, or a plateau that we can't seem to dissolve further, to dissolve the fixations that keep us, locked in this separation, this egoic perspective, and through just really embodying, paying attention to these simple, principles. So much of that can just start coming undone, and then for me, the blessing, that's when it really starts swimming in these, exposed realms of the Dharma, and that's for me when the Vipassana can go deepest, the Zen can go deepest, and the Vajrayana awarenesses, come up naturally and spontaneously. Not as something that we're striving to attain, but something we're just allowing to come forward by virtue of letting go of the holding and the resistance that have been built in. We all have this primal contraction, letting that go, and letting the Dharma, express itself through us. That's that's simple.
Mm-hmm. And so it sounds like a long process, something people will be working with for the rest of their lives in their practice or whatever. What can what can people get out of a weekend retreat like the one that you're going to be leading at Shambhala Mountain Center? How helpful or influential can that block of time be, and how? What can people expect in the workshop?
Even when I teach a short retreat like a weekend, and yes, it is true, this is a practice that is best entered into with, with time. The practice is cumulative. I often say the Dharma is not fast food therapy.
Mm.
And if we have long, long days, over the days it just becomes more natural. You start letting go with the breath, and after a while it starts breathing you, and you can get in touch with and understand this place. And look, in a short-term retreat, we don't have the advantage or the benefit of that long period of time. But my focus for short-term retreat is twofold. Once, yes, I want people to have an experience. I want people to experience what it is to perhaps shift their posture, shift their body into a condition that's far more natural, that's aligned with natural laws, rather than fighting with the force of gravity. I'm wanting people to have the experience of the shift. I'm wanting people to have the experience of what actually letting go of some of the holdings, some of the deep holding in the spine, some of the holding in the body, what that can do. So, first of all, yes, I want people, even in a short period of time, when I teach a weekend, it's a lot of practice. I want people to experience the letting go that can occur even in a short period of time. And especially with the weekends, I want people to leave with an understanding how to continue to work in this way and to bring this really natural way of being in the body back down onto your cushion, so that we can, do our practices. I'm a kind of a fanatical proponent of people, if we want to take the Dharma seriously, do the practices. Sitting sets us up. Every day we can do practices, and then there are retreats, longer retreats we can go to. And I'm a big proponent of people going into self-retreat for extended periods of time, just to keep working with these practices. And just to do the practices, not to worry about what's happening with the mind. How can I clear the mind? How can I quiet the mind? Letting go of all of it. Just doing the practice and watching over hours and over days how that affects us, how that shifts things in our experience of just sitting here, but being alive and incarnated as human beings. So yeah, the weekend up there is really twofold. Have an experience and leave with your understanding of how to keep it.
Mm. Well, I'm planning on participating, so I'm really looking forward to that, and we're all really looking forward to hosting you up here on the land, and hope that a lot of people who are tuned in, watching or listening to this interview, will check out the website, shambhalamountain.org, where you can learn more about the retreat, which once again is called The Posture of Meditation, Breathing Through the Whole Body, and that's going to be led by Will Johnson, who's been speaking with us today, November 14th to 16th. So check it out, and we hope to host a lot of you here for this retreat. Will, thank you so much once again for taking the time and sharing some wisdom. And this is the tip of the iceberg, and I'm looking forward to getting deeper into this.
Okay, indeed. Thank you. See you there, Travis.
Okay, and everybody, please stay tuned to our website also, shambhalamountain.org, to stay up to date on all the programs that we're running and the various things that we're doing, including more interviews like this, and a big online conference that's coming up in October, where there'll be lots more interviews between lots of really awesome people. So stay tuned to the website and be well. Bye.